of waiting. We are now discussing the book Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. Okay. This is not a drill, folks. We have the book. We have the book. Just to let you know, this is not a video about the whole book. I'm only doing up to part 2 of the book, so it's like 360 or so pages wise. So I want to do this in 2 parts because honestly, if I wait till the end of this book and then try to film, I'll never film, and you all don't want to watch me ramble on for 45 minutes probably. So we're gonna talk about this book. Also, there are spoilers, and there's also gonna be minor spoilers of the Infernal Devices. So if you haven't read the Infernal Devices, I'll let you know ahead of time, and I'll just put a picture down here, and just like when the picture goes, you can unmute the video. But other than that, let's get started. So we waited 8 years for this book. 8 years. And I remember, y'all, way back when I was a youngin', I read Clockwork Princess, and I remember reading it and bawling my eyes out. Like, I mean, I literally, I think the next day I was sitting in class and I was just like,
are there other things to life?
If you read the end of Clockwork Princess, you know what I'm talking about. I was destroyed, okay? It was very traumatic in my life. And then I went online and I found out this beautiful series was going to be written. I think it was it 5 or I can't remember if it was 5 or 7 years, but I remember thinking,
okay, I just gotta wait through this book. I just gotta wait till that book. I gotta wait till the book.
Because I was like, I need more Will Herondale in my life. So then I waited, and then the deadline kept getting pushed back further and further, and then we had a Dark Artifices series, and then one day this lovely book came on shelves and I bought it. Okay, let's start unwinding this book. I love this book, okay? I didn't think I was gonna like it. And yeah, I know, I just went on and on how I waited forever. So I read the Dark Artifices series and I didn't really like it, okay? I'm sorry, it was not my type of series. I don't know why. It's just, I thought it was like, oh, I'm just growing out of the Shadowhunter series. And maybe I am. Maybe the only reason why I did like this book to this point was because, like, Will and Tessa's in it. Like, there's some familiarity in it. So that's why I thought I liked it. I don't know, but I love this book. So I'm about to spoil Clockwork Princess a little, so you might just want to mute this video. Don't worry, you can come back. When the little picture disappears, come back. So in Clockwork Princess, we have this whole timeline thing at the back. It's like first edition or something. It's like a timeline of like all the characters, like when they were born, when they died. And I'm realizing the timeline's not really adding up to what the events in Chain of Gold is. And like I said, obviously when this was created and when the book was actually written, things could have changed. But what's really interesting is that in Clockwork Princess, you know, during that whole Will dying scene that is very traumatic, Tessa was going about like everyone's like kids, and it's just like, oh, Sophie's and Gideon's daughters. And I was like, huh, but they say here Thomas, and like Thomas is in Chain of Gold, and I'm like, what? It is actually really interesting though, because like I said, the dates aren't really lined up, but like I said, that's obviously, things change when you write a book and when you write a timeline. But I just think that was kind of cool. And obviously I think Cassandra Clare even said that when this timeline came out, like, oh, timelines can't always be accurate. But it's kind of interesting to see how like some of the characters have changed from this timeline and from this book into like Chain of Gold. So when this book was originally talked about, it was saying, oh, Will and Tessa aren't really going to be in it that much. Like, they'll be there, but they're not going to be there. They're not going to be in, like, a perspective. It's just going to be based off their kids. But we had a perspective. I was like, my gosh, thank you. It's so weird. I don't know, did anybody else feel weird, like, just reading Tessa and Will as, like, adults with kids? I reread the whole Infernal Devices series just recently, and so just now reading them now as adults with kids, like, I'm like, yes, parents of the year, but I'm also like, this is just weird. And also, I just feel old because this was 8 years ago since I originally read the books. What I found interesting during that little scene of Tessa and Will, like, they said Tessa, once she stopped aging, her hair stopped growing. Obviously, she's a warlock, so she could probably do some cool stuff. Never have a haircut again, like, to stay healthy on its own? Like, how does that work? One thing that was really interesting when James was thinking about how, you know, death of Parabatai, I always want to say Parabati, but it's Parabatai, I think. I don't know. He was like, oh, if anything ever happened to Matthew, I would be destroyed. And it's really interesting because then they're talking about like, oh, well, people die in books and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, is this some kind of foreshadowing? Like, is Matthew going to die? Like, what is going to happen? I'm kind of trying not to get myself worked up because I feel like so much times in Cassandra Clare's book, it's like this huge plot. You're like, oh my gosh, life or death. And then it's like, everybody lived happily ever after. But I'm like, is this some type of foreshadow? Because there's a lot of talk in this thing. Like, oh, in books it's like this. In books like this, you are a book. And so it's kind of Interesting things is like some kind of foreshadowing. I was a little confused at that one part where they're in the infirmary, in the like, you know, little hospital that's inside the institute, and Cordelia is talking to Jem, and she says Jem looked up in surprise. How does a silent brother look up in surprise? That's kind of weird, because like aren't they like their face like all kind of blank? I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe I missed something there, because I know Jem was like a little different from the regular silent brother, but still I was like, how does one look up into surprise? And I didn't know that too. Like, they can actually communicate in their minds together, because that's what happened between Jem and James at one point. And I didn't know that. I thought, like, yeah, I knew silent brothers communicated with other people in their minds, but I know other people could also talk in their mind. And I wondered, like, is it like, do you have to willingly do it, or could they just read your thoughts? My thing is, there's that one point where stuff is going down. There's like that demon attack in the park, and James, Matthew, and all the other people are all locked in the ballroom trying to get James to turn into a shadow and stuff. And Will is mad that James went out into the dark by himself when we just had a whole series written on this. I get it, Will's a parent now, so like obviously like the things you did in your youth, they just terrify you that your kid's gonna do one day. But still, I was like, dude, we just had a whole series about how that's all you people did. And aren't you a shadow hunter, so you're supposed to work at night? But I was kind of confused too, like, they locked the ballroom and like Will's trying to get in, and that's it. We never really hear, well, we kind of hear about what happened afterwards, but like, was it just normal? It was like, okay, whatever. Like, wouldn't you be concerned why your window is broken and why your son is there? I don't know. Also, that one part where Christopher uses the duck metaphor, that would have been a prime time for like the never trust a duck thing. And I know James kind of went into it after that. He was like, oh, I once was bitten by a duck as a small child. Don't care for them. But it was been such a prime time to be like, Will always said never trust a duck. I also found it kind of interesting how, you know, when they're on that bridge and they're fighting those weird demons, and then the demon tells James like, I'm only gonna leave if you don't tell anybody about this. And then I find it funny, it's just a few pages before that we read how Lucy can't keep a secret. And that's one thing I love how the author did. Like, I wasn't sure how this was gonna go down, because the author said this isn't a series about Will and Tessa, it's about their kids, and I didn't know how that would have been. You know Will and Tessa are there, but they're not really in it. Like, would that be interesting? But I really liked it because she did a really good job at linking the characters to become their own persons. Like, I really love the character James and Lucy. Like, there's really no characters there I'm like, ugh, I gotta read about now. Like, I actually think she did a really good job building these characters up to be their own people and have their own interests. I like how she didn't make James just a shadow of Will. She created them as individuals. When Barbara died, oh my gosh, I was so sad. So sad. We didn't know her that much. Like, we really didn't know anything about her character, but then when they said Barbara died, I was like, what? So soon? That's pretty big, I think. Like, in the first book, we already have somewhat of a major death. Like, it wasn't like it was just a, like, random shadow hunter. It was Barbara, like, people's from the previous book's kid. So this is what's really interesting. James is obsessed with Grace, and then she cuts it off, and James keeps describing this like, oh, it was like this weight has been lifted, it's like this emptiness, and like you think maybe it's heartbreak, but then Grace was able to persuade Matthew to kiss him, and then he's like, and even in his perspective, he's like, is he the only thing right to do? What if Grace is actually a warlock? I don't know. You know, dark stuff happened at the Lightwood house. Like, maybe she's a warlock, or like something with magic, and she has this power to like persuade people or control them. Maybe that's why she was never trained as a shadow hunter. Maybe because her mother was just one of those like hated shadow hunters type things. But what happens if Grace isn't trained as a shadow hunter, because she really isn't a shadow hunter, but she can bear ruins. So I guess that's right, she can have a ruin, so maybe not, but something's up with Grace. I'm really interested to see how this is happening, which I think the author is really good in tying the Great Expectations. Like, obviously it's loosely based, but having read Great Expectations, like, I like seeing all the little connections. I'm like, I got that. Also, was anybody else feel a little awkward when James was telling Lucy how Matthew had feelings for?
No, I'm not buying it. Nope.
I'm not buying. Spoiler, Clockwork Princess. It says in Clockwork Princess that times like she ends up with Jesse Blackthorn, and like, I don't know, like I said, maybe that's some type of hoax. Like, maybe, like I said, timelines change, so the author could have wrote that timeline. I was like, never mind, I want to go somewhere else. I don't feel like Matthew and Lucy should end up here, which I don't think they will, because I feel like the author's trying to like make you lead on like, oh, they're gonna end up together, and be like, Nope, not gonna happen. I feel like it'd be too obvious if they did, and I don't know. Like, I just don't like it. And I just felt like that whole conversation was like a little awkward. Or how about that one time with Cordelia, Matthew, and Anna? They were in like that place, and Cordelia realizes, oh shoot, that mermaid person is gonna poison them, and she like slashes her sword out, and it's really epic, cool. And I'm thinking, if that didn't happen, and Malcolm drank that poison, we wouldn't have had the Dark Artifices series, would we? Obviously, I think the author wrote that as like we could have avoided that, but look at here. If Cordelia knew, if she would have known. Yeah, so I really like this book so far. I'm hoping I will continue to like it. But anyway, so that's like kind of a little review about the first part. I will be doing the second part pretty soon. So then, like I said, you don't want to hear me ramble for 45 minutes about these books. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more bookish conversations, and so then you can be updated for the next video. Bye!